But really, I was a kid, and my mother made decisions every minute of every day to keep us alive. So I had nothing to do with it, I just went along. So then the man said to us,
Your father?
my father was away in a labor camp at this time, yeah, thank you. And so, no, you stopped me. What was I saying? Oh yeah, let me get back. So anyway, no. So there we are, and we don't know what to do. And so he told us that his wife, he was a widower, and his wife, when she died, she was 53 years old. And she said, I can give you, to my mom, my wife's papers. Now, she was 34, the woman, so if anybody ever had stopped us, it never would have helped, but gave us the paper and said, and I know an old lady who lives not too far from here in an apartment building next to a major railway station, and go to her, but don't tell her that you're Jewish, because she would be way too scared to take you in, but tell her that your husband is away in the war and you are out of town and you came into to Budapest, you have no place to stay. And so we did that. We went to the old lady, who was lovely, and said, oh, absolutely no problem at all. I already have a young woman living with me who was, by the way, had a high position in the Nazi party, the best woman you hope for. And she let us in. After a few days, my mother felt that it was unfair for her not to know that we are Jewish. And so she told the old lady, because it really was unfair. I didn't know what the danger she was in. And she got hysterical, and she said, you have to leave, you have to leave. And my mother started shaking her and said, no, my husband is in the war, and we are from out of town, and we have no place to stay, and we have to stay here. And so finally she said, okay. Now by this time, this is already late November, the Allies were bombing constantly, and the Russians were surrounding the city. There were 1 million Russian soldiers all around the city, because it was very important for Stalin to have Budapest. I mean, it was strategically important. And so everybody wanted to kill us, in other words. And there was hand-to-hand combat on the streets between the Hungarian German soldiers and the Russian soldiers. And so there we moved into this apartment building, and all the time there were these raids that I mentioned, that air raids, and we had to go down to the bomb shelter. And one day when we were in the bomb shelter, a guy came up to my mom and said, hello, how are you? And called her by her real name. And my mother said, that's not me, what are you talking about? And he said, no, I know, I know your husband. He works for the Hydro. I don't know what you're talking about, it's not me. Just leave me alone. I know that you have a little girl. I don't know what you're talking about. And miracle number 2, the guy said, well, okay. So he could have denounced us at that point easily, but he didn't. So, but after this, the old lady went totally ballistic, and I don't blame her, and said, you cannot come down to the bomb shelter anymore. I don't care what kind of bombings going on, you cannot come down. So for the next 2 or 3 days, we stayed up on the 4th floor while they were bombing, and the house was going, like all around us. And finally, my mother said, look, this is sure death if we have to stay up there, because this house is going to be coming down one of these minutes. And so she said, okay, you can move into the coal cellar. In Hungary, nobody had central heating, and in the fall, they would bring either coal or wood, whatever people were using for heating, and they would dump it into these underground little cellars. So this lady had a coal cellar. She said, you have to stay there. So there we were. I can imagine how difficult that must have been, but And then my mother, for example, cut her foot somehow, and it started to get very bad infection, and she was advised that if she doesn't get to the hospital, then gangrene can set in. It was very dangerous, so she had to go to the hospital. Now the hospital was a few blocks away, and here we are in the middle of the war, and they are fighting right there and shooting each other. but she had to go to the hospital. So she took my hand because her idea was that no matter what, we should be together. She can get killed on her way to the hospital. I can get killed where I was staying. You didn't know. So she took me, and I remember this, that there were dead people lying all over the place, soldiers and horses. Why did they have horses? I don't know. Did they have horses? Anyway, I have a memory. In fact, I have a memory that my mother swore that it's not true, and I think it is, that she cut a piece of a dead horse. Probably never happened, but I could swear. And that day she made a hamburger. Where did she have the knife? Frozen horses. Anyway, it was a good story, but I don't think it ever